at the School of Music in the College of the Arts at USF. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the performance.
Hello, my name is Garvin, and I'm the Dean of the College of the Arts here at USF, and I want to welcome you to our concert hall. For the second year in a row, we are hosting the This Is My Brave night, the university night, and we couldn't be prouder to be a part of this. The work that is done to get to this point, the bravery that the performers will show, the dedication that the people who support this give is really an inspiration to me and so many others. We live in a world where difference is exploited, where hate is nurtured, and it makes it hard to be oneself. And then you add that to the stigma around mental illness and addiction, it makes it really hard. So maybe it was brave for people to do this last year or the year before, but it's getting braver for people to do this, and it's really more important than ever. So I thank you for supporting this. I thank you and the people that'll be sitting here for what the stories we're going to hear tonight, and I really, really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much, and have a great night. It's my honor to introduce Dr. Margaret McGladrey.
Thank you so much. My name is Margaret McGladrey, and I'm an assistant professor who joined the Department of Mental Health Law and Policy and the faculty here at the University of South Florida this past fall. I also serve as the faculty co-lead of the Criminal Legal System team and the Photovoice site lead for the NIH-funded Healing Communities Study Kentucky. I specialize in participatory health research and community engagement processes like Photovoice that I'm going to tell you a little bit more about in a moment, in support of interdisciplinary team science conducted in partnership with a wide variety of public and private agencies, such as K-12 schools, local public health departments, cooperative extension, county and regional jails, probation and parole offices, treatment courts, pretrial services, and recovery community organization. I also have personal lived experience with mental health conditions, anorexia, eating disorder, and depression and anxiety, as well as a family history with substance use disorder. So this work has always been really important to me on both personal and professional levels. 30 years ago, public health researchers Carolyn Wong and Marianne Burris developed Photovoice, which is a participatory action research method that engages community members in research with three goals. First, to record and reflect community strengths and concerns. Second, to promote critical dialogue and knowledge about important issues through small group discussions and photographs. And third, to reach decision makers and encourage the adoption of health promoting policies. Stigma is a major barrier to mental health treatment seeking, as we all in this room know. And it also is a predictor of suicide risk among college students, despite the existence of stigma reduction evidence-based practices like This Is My Brave, as well as Photovoice. A limitation of current research on these evidence-based practices is their exclusive testing with college students, not with faculty and staff members whose disclosures of recovery facilitate student help seeking and college persistence, but entail high levels of personal and professional risk. So after the first show in spring 2022, the USF Presidential Advisory Council on Accessibility expressed interest in involving faculty and staff in the This Is My Brave live show. So Dr. Kosyluk and I took this as inspiration to write an internal research grant. Thank you very much to the USF College of Behavioral and Community Sciences for this grant to test the feasibility and relative effectiveness of packaging This Is My Brave and Photovoice, which we are calling Brave Takes for the purposes of today and going forward with working with This Is My Brave, in order to encourage our whole community on campus in reducing stigma around mental health and addiction. Our goal with Brave Takes is to empower USF students, faculty, and staff to share their personal stories of recovery and visions for change while controlling their level of disclosure of their identity in public. So in terms of our methods, each Brave Takes group met on Zoom and participated in an orientation session that covered the ethics of photography and strategies for taking de-identified photos, informed consent, and covering also these goals of the Photovoice method that I just reviewed with you, orientation, then 2 photo discussion sessions, and then a final analysis and action planning session. During orientation, each group used the nominal group technique to generate lists of the topics most important to photograph in understanding the strengths and concerns related to mental health and addiction on campus that they thought were most important. Participating co-researchers took photos on nominated topics and then came back together to share and discuss the photos, what they mean, and how they illustrate the selected topic using the SHOWed method. Between sessions, Voices of Behavioral Health analysts, and these are the Voices of Behavioral Health Lab, I should have said. Our analysts conducted rapid analysis of photo discussion notes using the socio-ecological framework. These analyses were presented to each group at subsequent sessions as a reflective exercise and preparation for analysis. That final session involved reviewing photos, analyzing the rapid analysis note documents, and assigning text from the notes to photos without identifying the co-researchers, as well as preparing for today's event and deciding whether or not they would publicly identify as a Brave Takes co-researcher, participate as an exhibitor, or present. And then we also discussed in that final session ideas for sharing the project more broadly after the show. Our inaugural Brave Takes project included one group of faculty and staff, one staff group, and one student group. Each group's research analyst will now share representative examples from each of their co-researchers' work.
Hello, my name is Sofia Reyes Ochoa. I'm an undergraduate student at USF majoring in health sciences. I am the Voices of Behavioral Health Lab analyst for a faculty staff group, and this slide shows an example of their photo and quote creations. It says, "We're biological human beings first. We're designed to connect to nature, but we've become so distracted and disconnected by grind culture that it's hard to find the moments to take in and enjoy the beautiful environment around us."
Hello, my name is Kalia Schuler. I am a senior here at USF. My major is behavioral health care with a focus on addictions. I am the Voices of Behavioral Health Lab analyst for a staff group. And this slide shows an example of their photo and their quote creations. I used to walk through these doors as a student, greeted by the warm glow of the hallway lights. Relief would wash over me, passing by the posters with words of healing validation, empathy for my pain, sympathy for my plight. Here I would find respite, a safe place to lay down the crushing weights of my stress and anxiety. These doors are now locked. The lights have gone cold, and the halls feel threatening. It's not that I'm not welcome here. There's just simply no room for me.
Hi, I'm Ming Fan, and I'm a freshman majoring in econometrics and quantitative economics. I am the Voices of Behavioral Health Lab analyst for a student group, and this slide shows an example of their photos and quote creations. This poster states, "I'm not done with my changes," leaning against a mirror facing my bed and nightstand in my room. I wake up every morning and seeing myself in the mirror. The poster reminds me that I'm not done with my change, and I am capable of so many things. I like to use this space as a reflection on what am I doing with myself at that time, and to remind myself this journey of recovery is endless and ever-changing. This is a mental health check-in point, using a poster that is personal to me. Even though I may not be able to get myself out of the house some days to see what my campus offers, I have this mirror and poster to remind me of the path I am on and that I am strong.
Hi everyone, I'm Manisha Kotwal. I'm a freshman here in College of Public Health. I'm a graphic designer here in Voices of Behavioral Health Lab for this project. And I have designed the poster template that you see on the screen. Yeah, and there are some outside as well. After the show, please feel free to join us and our Photovoice participants to explore and talk about our work. We've got 16 different posters out there. And also please feel free to collect 25 different postcards to take home with you. And of course, continue to have conversation to end the stigma about mental health and addiction. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. We look forward to talking with you more about the projects and the product, and you all to take the postcards and continue the conversation, as Manisha said. But now I'd like to welcome to the stage Dr. Kathy Moore, Director of the Florida Mental Health Institute, faculty with the Department of Mental Health Law and Policy at USF, and my mentor.
Thanks, Margaret. What amazing work we have here in our college and at our university. We are just so lucky to have these great colleagues. As Margaret said, I'm Kathleen Moore, and I'm the director of the Florida Mental Health Institute, as well as research professor in the Department of Mental Health Law and Policy in the College of Behavioral and Community Sciences. We are so honored to be able to co-sponsor This Is My Brave, the college edition, for the second year. Our mission aligns so well with the goal of This Is My Brave, which is trying to change the stigma of mental illness by bringing inspiring stories and performers to share and uplift the community. Stories transcend generations. They engage us through emotion, and they connect us to others. Through these stories, we share passion, sadness, meaning, and purpose. Stories are the common ground that allow people to communicate, overcoming our differences. Stories allow us to understand ourselves better and to find our commonality with others. As you will soon see, we have 10 wonderful performers who have the courage to share their story through dance, comedy, poetry, and other art form. To be able to get up on this stage and open their heart to us shows incredible resilience and strength of character. We applaud that bravery of these students to share their story and their experience, and hope that this will empower all of us collectively. When we hear other people recounting hurdles and challenges, it gives us the strength to overcome our own challenges and face our fears. I am sure each and every one of you can think about a time in your life, past or present, when you or a loved one struggled with mental illness or a substance use issue. When I was struggling in my late teens to try and fit in and kind of figure everything out, there were not a whole lot of resources. I wish there had been a platform like this for myself and for others trying to navigate our path and to share our voice. We have a voice. Let's use it. When you leave here tonight, I challenge you to be brave and share a story with a loved one. Be vulnerable, open up, and you will be amazed how this increases our understanding and compassion of one another's journey. Today, as you've seen with Margaret and you'll hear from Kristin, we are so lucky to be working within a college with faculty and staff and our incredible dean who share the same ideals of compassion and empathy. One of these colleagues is Dr. Kristin Kosyluk, who has been working with This Is My Brave for several years now in order to increase the impact and reduce stigma of mental illness and addiction. With her connection, she was able to bring the college edition of This Is My Brave last year, the resounding success, and we're back again for a second year. Kristin, along with her team, has worked tirelessly over the past year. You can imagine how many hours go into making this production. I am so honored to introduce my friend, my colleague, and a beautiful person inside and out, Dr. Kristin Kosyluk.
Good evening, everyone. I'm talking to the mic. Okay. Welcome to This Is My Brave College Edition at the University of South Florida. My name is Dr. Kristin Kosyluk. I'd like to thank you all for coming out tonight to witness the University of South Florida shine a light on the stories of brave individuals who are living well and thriving despite a diagnosis of mental illness or addiction. Before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to thank our supporters. Thank you to the Louis de la Part Florida Mental Health Institute for generous support of this production. Thank you also to the College of the Arts and Sciences and Dean Garvin, and to the College of Behavioral and Community Sciences and Dean Sorovich for providing us with space and resources to make this event possible. Thank you very, very much to our community sponsors, Central Florida Behavioral Health Network, Tampa Bay Thrives, Community Assisted and Supported Living, or CASEL, Trust But Verify, the National Alliance on Mental Illness of Hillsborough County, Doctors David Shern and Mary Evans, and Doctors Mary Armstrong and Roger Boothroyd. Without your kind support, this show would not be possible. We'd also like to give a special thank you to our photographer, Laura Lyon, staff photographer at USF's Office of Innovative Education, and our videographer, Frank Ranieri of Communicasting, Inc. You are allowing us to capture something very important tonight that we can look back on for years to come. Thank you to USF Student Accommodation and Support Services, our interpreters from Hands On USF, and Tess Crowder of Real Time CSI for helping us make this show accessible to all of our audience members. To the incredible USF production team, this show would not be possible without your generous and passionate commitment of your time and talents. Thank you, Cameron, or Cam, Tally, Michelle Wilkes, Sierra Spivey, Patty Harrison, Molly Yernick, Precious Goodson, Melissa Carlson, Dr. Kathy Moore, and Dr. Fanny Green. An extra special thank you to Amanda Clark, co-producer of this show, stage manager. She's behind the stage tonight running the show, but her contributions and dedication to this production put her center stage. Thank you, Amanda. Since This Is My Brave is a storytelling organization, I thought it would make sense for me to tell you the story of how I learned of This Is My Brave and my reason for getting involved. In 2015, the co-founder and former executive director of This Is My Brave, Jennifer Marshall, connected with me looking for someone to establish This Is My Brave as an evidence-based stigma reduction program. It has been my privilege to partner with This Is My Brave for the past 8 years as their lead program evaluator. Our research shows that This Is My Brave is effective for reducing stigma and improving attitudes towards treatment seeking among the audience members. We have also documented the impact of being part of a Brave cast, showing that cast members experience an increased sense of empowerment, self-esteem, self-efficacy, and optimism as a result of their Brave journey. Therefore, it is with great confidence in the benefits of this program that I have had the joy of working with our production team for a second year in a row and our amazing cast members over the course of the last 7 months to bring this production, the second annual, to USF. 2 years ago, I would have told you that my why for producing this show is that I have friends and family who I have seen struggle with mental illness, mostly in silence due to stigma. When I worked with our team to produce the first This Is My Brave USF show last year, I came to realize that I could not ask our Brave USF student cast to be vulnerable without being vulnerable too. Last year, for me, being vulnerable looked like including my bio in the playbill and mentioning that I happen to live with mental health conditions. This year, I wanted to share with you a brief story to put that disclosure in context. You may have wondered, what in the world is she carrying up on stage with her? So this is Blanky. Blanky was made with love by my grandmother and used to be a crib blanket that was embroidered with the characters of my favorite film, The Wizard of Oz. I loved Blanky so dearly, as you can tell. It's been washed so many times that it's in shambles. And so how in the world is this relevant tonight? My parents recently moved to Florida part-time, and they brought with them a box full of childhood memories. In that box, along with them, was my Blanky. Blanky brought back a flood of memories for me. One of these was me at 7 or 8 years old. Blanky was already in shreds, again, from years of washing. And I remember taking Blanky and painstakingly tethering every one of my beloved stuffies to Blanky. Why was I doing this? Because I wanted to be able to grab up Blanky and all of my most beloved stuffies in one fell swoop in order to run from the house should a fire or other emergency happen. I thought nothing of it at the time, but in retrospect, these were the first signs that I was struggling with anxiety. It wasn't until I was in college, a decade later, that I first engaged with mental health support at the University Counseling Center. And it wasn't until my 30s, another decade later, that I was officially diagnosed with depression and anxiety. I'm so thankful that I eventually found support for my mental health. Research shows that the 20-year period that I went without help, and the help I needed and deserved, that's the norm, not the exception. It is my hope that these stories tonight, mine and those of our brave cast, help to change this. If you connect with any of these stories and they are inspired to seek help, there are resources available to you. Before we get started, a few housekeeping items. If everyone could please take out your cell phones. This Is My Brave is a very social organization, and we want you to take lots of pictures, selfies, even video clips, and share these on your social networks by tagging @ThisIsMyBrave and using the hashtag #StorytellingSavesLives. What you are about to witness defines what it means to be brave. We need your help to tell the world we are here so that they can learn what it means to live brave too. So share away, don't be shy. Our social media team will do our best to retweet and regram all those posts, as many posts as possible, to extend our reach. Though we encourage you to keep those cell phones out, now would be a good time to make sure you turn your phone to silent for the duration of the show. We're about to take you on a journey. You will laugh and you may cry. You will be enlightened and inspired. And our hope is that you will leave with a transformed impression of what the face of mental illness looks like, thanks to the bravery of our cast members. Mental illness can happen to anyone. A person with mental illness doesn't have a distinct look. They look like you and like me and the cast members you will meet on our stage. The reality of mental illness is this: 1 in 5 to 1 in 4 Americans live with a diagnosable mental disorder. Research suggests that 39% of students in college experience significant mental health issue, yet 67% of people between the ages of 18 and 24 who live with anxiety and depression do not seek treatment. This is one of the reasons why the #2 leading cause of death among young adults is suicide. We are uncomfortable talking about mental illness and addiction, so many believe that they are alone in their experiences and they suffer in silence. This changes today, right here on the stage. We're shining a light on mental illness to show the world that we are students, faculty, and professionals. We are your friends, your peers, your colleagues, your neighbors, your family. We hope that through our storytelling, you will better understand mental illness and addiction, and you will be able to be supportive of those in your life who may experience it. Who knows? You may even be inspired to share your own story one day. It's when we share our stories that we open up the conversation and break down unnecessarily life-threatening stigma. Tonight, we are letting the USF campus know that storytelling saves lives. We also want you to note that some of the stories may be distressing for some audience members. If you need a break at any point, we understand your experiences are valid. If needed, please quietly exit the theater and see one of the ushers, who will be able to connect you with one of our mental health professionals and provide you with a variety of mental health resources. Look for the people in the gold scarves. Thank you again to everyone for being here and to everyone who put so much into this show. Let's get started. It is my honor to welcome to the stage our first performer, Merita Thomas, performing Tell Them I'm Brave.
I thought there was no way out. Yeah, I used to be scared of the light. And I was swallowed by doubt. I'd forgotten what freedom was like. Puzzle pieces on the floor, they don't fit in anymore. I'm changing, I'm changing. When they ask you who I am, what I've done and where I've been, there's one thing I want you to say. Tell them I'm brave, see it on my face. I am bigger than anything coming my way. It's a new day, no, I'm not afraid. So if anyone asks you how are you game, you can tell them I'm brave. Some days I come out on top, and some days I can catch a break. But when the fire don't stop, I won't wish my troubles away. I've been down and I've been out, but if you look at me now, I'm blooming, I'm moving into better, brighter days. Yeah, this hope is here to stay, and there's one thing you can say. Tell them I'm brave, see it on my face. I am bigger than anything coming my way. It's a new day, no, I'm not afraid. So if anyone asks you how are you game, you can tell them I'm brave. To welcome to the stage our next cast member, Karla.
You are not alone is a statement that often pollutes uncomfortable discussions in 2 cold guidance counselors' offices and 2 empty therapy suites, whispered in between sessions and written on post-it notes aimlessly slapped on metal lockers, offering refuge to those who don't know or don't care to say anything more. You are not alone serves as the words of strength to keep you going until next week or next month, but unable to stop the colossal weight of self-destruction. You are not alone suspends any conversation that was meant to be had or perhaps postponed indefinitely. R/Suicide Watch is populated with desperate strangers keeping each other alive with banality, screaming, "You are not alone!" Met with deafening silence that communicates more pain than words could begin to describe. It serves as a platitude, the epitome of I don't know what else to tell you to keep you going. To be alone is to suffer alone. The concept of aloneness declared the antithesis of recovery. Statistically, you are never alone. You can ask the 21 million adults in the US struggling alone. This concept of aloneness is simple at face value. Alone is a statistic, alone is a graph, alone is a value measured in tally marks and spreadsheets. But that isn't really alone. In my mind, you can never truly be alone, no matter how much you crave being just that. Alone, to the socially anxious, would be revolutionary. To be alone is to escape every judgment, every doubt, every possible social threat, and for us there are quite a few. But you can never truly be alone. You is always accompanied by yourself, thoughts bouncing between the two, conversation flowing between me and I, conversations which turn into displays of terror. In theater, there exists a crucial yet often overlooked distinction between a monologue and a soliloquy, the former being addressed to an audience while the latter is entirely private. This, I feel, makes the idea of an internal monologue that much more real, a speech addressed to myself. I spew my thoughts, anxiously awaiting critique from me. How many points did I lose from mental stuttering? How many contradictions were there in my sentence? How do I improve? For my ideas are inevitably spread to those outside myself. This split self is agonizing. I, me, myself, will never escape the cavil of myself, me, and I, wearing myself down in an attempt to fulfill my insatiable desire for perfection. I like to think of this duality of selfdom as evolutionary, precautionary, a system designed for self-preservation. I am my own biggest critic because I have to be. And yet, the self-doubt, the diminished confidence, the internal hatred that I has for me makes me wonder, at what point does self-preservation become self-destruction? To be alone is what I craved, past tense. To form an alliance between the voices in your head is far easier said than done, and it's a skill that I and me have not even begun to master. Skin slashed in battle between victim and perpetrator, both parts played by me. Trash can littered with crimson-soaked tissues on nights where the voice antagonizing me in my head becomes unbearable. Me waves the white flag, now littered with crimson flecks of color. And again, I ask, at what point does self-preservation become self-destruction? To form an alliance between the voices in your head is far easier said than done. For me, or for I, or really I should say for us, it's an ongoing battle littered with blog posts, medication, therapy, and more journals than I can count. And while there still exists a voice of opposition against me in my head, the I strengthens as the me becomes sympathetic, no longer interested in the self-deprecatory bait she once so longingly craved. Or at least that's what she's learning to do. At the same time, freedom is the scariest thing of all. Freedom from this toxic relationship that has been with me so long that I don't know how to exist without it. Who is I without me's torments? As me caresses I, embraces her rather than become vicious, I fear I won't be met with clarity or with relief, but be jolted from my comatose velvet world into a reality where everything is made of glass and I am ready to shatter. As I stand here, I contemplate. I says my voice is shaking, my palms are sweating, and there's so many eyes looking at me that I don't know what my next line is. And me replies, it's because I'm up here acting like some poetic genius when I should be in the audience. My anxiety stems from this tumultuous relationship, from I fearing me, fearing what others think of I, to live in a world in which my existence is meant to be hidden from those I want to pour myself out to, a world where you are not alone is the best a person can do, a world in which my tears are collected in jars and displayed on a trophy case labeled brave is devastating. To be the sad girl simultaneously a status that is romanticized and condemned, my fragility, my anxiety should not be something that is glorified or dismissed, but recognized. To those like myself who deal with this constant pull and tug between the voices in their head, I would like to say that you are not supposed to be alone. And while I can't claim to know the answer to befriending the voice in your head, I do know that constant in the pursuit of this mental treaty between me and I is work. Work to understand myself, work to recognize irrationalities, work not to return to the comfort of toxicity. Getting better is a full-time, and really I should say it's a 24/7 job. And even if me accompanies I for the rest of my life, and I should say as she accompanies, me is learning to become secure enough in herself to resist I's more than occasional torments. Sporadic battles prove less intense than they once were, and as I learns to love me, it seems more evident than ever that you can never truly be alone. And I don't think I want to be. My name is Karla, and this is my brave. I'd like to welcome to the stage our next cast member, Bianca.
Hello, TIMB audience of 2023. How we doing tonight? Please respond to me. Good? Okay. Isn't that like too much positivity? This is a show about the most horrifically sad things you've ever heard. You probably shouldn't be doing good. How about we try again? How we doing tonight? Yeah, that's better. Let those groans of misery out. Now you let that out, you don't have to feel bad about laughing. Sydney, you in the crowd there? Sydney, our laugh leader for tonight? So, if you attended the show last year, you may remember me as a girl who spoke for about 10 minutes and had everyone crying at the end. I know I went on and on. Blah, sad, blah, depression, blah, whoa, I cry about it, nobody cares. What was that, Amanda? I'm not supposed to trivialize my own trauma by joking about it? Anyways, at least this time, I won't be as long. I promise. Here we go. So, let's all be honest a second here. You didn't read the little show handout they gave you, did you? So then, let me introduce myself. My name is Bianca, I'm 20 years old, and I've been sober for about, oh wait, this isn't my AA meeting. Thank goodness for y'all. Some of you look like you could use a drink. Don't worry, that's a perfectly normal reaction. There will be refreshments afterwards. Non-alcoholic though. Yeah, sorry to disappoint. You know, that's kind of like getting your school shot up, expecting gun reform, but then in the lobby, all they've got are, I survived high school t-shirts. Actually, I need that. It's my medication guide for my Zoloft. I mean, Prozac, what am I on again? Abilify? Yeah. But seriously, I'm diagnosed with depression, anxiety, and PTSD, as you can tell by the bangs I cut last night. So I'm this funny because of my trauma, not my personality. Oh wait, I forgot the C in front of PTSD. That's the new badge of honor given by my new therapist. The C stands for complex. Today I'm going to tell you about some funny anecdotes from my life post-trauma. So I survived the shooting that happened in Parkland, Florida almost 5 years ago on Valentine's Day. Yeah, that one. What a day of love. If you're like, whoa, at that school shooting joke a second ago, like I said at the start, you don't have to feel bad about laughing. Don't worry about laughing. This is how I cope, and how I think most of us should cope with life's traumas. I should try and build a guide. How about something like How to Survive a School Shooting 101? Oh wait, that's the name of this bit, isn't it? How about we call it HTSSS for short? Good? Good. And if you've lived under a rock for the last 5 years, it is the largest mass shooting in a high school in the USA as of right now. And I know some people are going to think, that was 5 years ago. Why are you still talking about this? Time flies, but there's been more mass shootings than days in a year, according to American statistics. Well, I also let my ex-boyfriend write some of this comedy act. You think I'm going to get over a mass shooting? Lower your standards, people. Step 1 of HTSSS, accepting it happened. I remember the evening after the shooting happened, watching the numbers go up on the news. It hit 17. The news turning it into the Super Bowl. Texting my friends like, we're #1, baby, let's go! As if the Bucks had won the Super Bowl again. Always the news is always turning some trauma into a media production, another statistic on TV. But when I tell people that I survived the Parkland shooting, it usually goes something like this. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Did you know anyone who died? Yes, I did. About half of them. Oh gosh, but you weren't in the building, right? Ah, funny joke. Yes, I was. I can't believe it. Did you see anything? Yes, my eyes were open. I saw shit. Were you? I'm telling you now, you're not going to like the answer. But yeah, it's always a nice icebreaker when people ask me about my high school. Some things should be left untold, am I right? Like when I get another tattoo and I never tell my parents. Good thing they're not here tonight. Step 2 of HTSSS, dealing with the effects of a shooting. One of the best things. We didn't have to read Lord of the Flies anymore. Thank God. Oh my God, what a horrible book. My teachers just simultaneously gave up teaching. No more geometric proofs in geometry and lots of poetry about our feelings. They did, however, keep our hope requirement. They wanted to teach us how to better run, you know? After the shooting, a lot of celebrities collectively sent their wishes to the school and community. The least you could do after children died, you know? Within the last few weeks after the shooting, Dwayne Wade actually showed up to our lunch period. Wild, I know. It was really fun for those kids at lunch. Wow, a big-time basketball player and just genuinely good guy came to visit us. Lots of whooping and hollering for him. People who weren't at lunch during that time were freaking out in a hyperventilating panic attack thinking a shooting was gonna happen again way. Not a, yay, Dwayne Wade. You know, because of the sudden screaming out of nowhere from a distance. Like, damn, I can't even enjoy the perks of being a school shooting survivor. 1 second, Dwayne Wade is visiting, and the next year under a desk having a trauma flashback. Another thing was we had a bunch of therapy dogs come to campus for us, including, wait for it, a therapy horse. What? They gave us little cards of the dogs as if we were collecting and trading ancient mango jewel pods, or Pokemon cards for the millennials out there. We also got some not-so-fun notoriety, conspiracy theories that we were crisis actors. Dude, I'm just trying to get through freshman English. I don't have time for that. Congress members verbally assaulting us on the streets. At least Alex Jones got his karma. Step 3, finding the good in the bad. A hilarious thing is that our school name is Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High, named after the Everglades protector and enthusiast. And what a wonderful woman she was that we named an entire high school after her, built directly on the Everglades. That would be like if they named a pool after a prime minister who died by drowning. Oh wait, they did that in Australia. My best friend Leah, bless her heart. Geez, that makes it sound like she's passed. She's not dead. She just goes to school in Tallahassee. My best friend Leah also survived the shooting, and we have this conspiracy theory that the ghost of Marjorie Stoneman Douglas haunts our school. One example of this, outside of the whole, mass shooting, is that we had plastic clear backpacks for the rest of the school year after the shooting. And it was hilarious. The whole point was to prohibit people from bringing weapons to school because they could see through their bag and all that, which completely failed in a week. This girl brought not one, but 2 knives to school. She hid it in the strap of the backpack. Take that, Broward Sheriff's Office. People started getting real creative with what they were putting in their backpacks. It was like our own little form of protest, and the memes that came from it were so funny. Here's a few. Here's mine, crisis actor number 420. 14-year-old me thought she was so funny, and she didn't even smoke weed then. Next one. Then we have tampons here. Yeah, tampons. Drugs. Again, I can't bring weed in my bag anymore. And then we started making jokes about how we were gonna make it into an aquarium, similar to that backpack thing with a little cat holder in it. And then it finally happened. Here we go. No, this is a real video. There is not 1, not 2, but 3 fish in that bag. Let me play it again. 3 fish in there. At the end of the day, plastic backpacks aren't going to shield kids from bullets. Step 4, witnessing change. They actually decided to start making some efforts to stop it. Yeah, let's give an overworked, underpaid teacher a gun. In the words of Childish Gambino's 2018 hit single, "This is America." Department of Education be like, yeah, let's fix those bullet holes with a bit of plastic, Jokes aside, a real effort needs to be made to protect our youth in schools, whether that's more mental health advocacy and education, security in schools, or change in gun policy, something needs to happen. The number 1 killer of children and teens age 1 to 19 is firearms. School shootings didn't end with Stoneman Douglas, nor Robb Elementary, nor Michigan State. The last and final step, joining the fight against gun violence. Let's make sure we are the generation to see the end of school shootings in America. Thank you. My name is Bianca, and this is my Brave. And now I'd like to welcome our next cast member to the stage, Merita.
My name is Merita. I'm singing an original song that I wrote when I was in 8th grade, and I felt like I was losing parts of myself, and these were questions that I asked that ignited my journey back to myself. Sometimes I feel so low, I feel so down, I feel like giving it up. Sometimes I feel so lost, I feel so alone, I feel like there's nobody to care. I know there's a spark inside of me, but I just can't let it explode. All it does is burning deep inside of me. Troubled, messed up, problems come around and they infest up. Everywhere I go, everyone I see are burdened with a heap of suffering. Why can't we live in a problem-free and safe and happy place? But that's the way they make you stronger than you ever were before. So be strong to fight the waves. Why are you hiding behind the shadows of the world, where no one can find and bring you out? Why don't you let your light shine? Why don't you let your light shine? Why don't you believe in yourself? Ooh. peace, every day's a bad day. When you try to be yourself, flying with a pair of broken wings, hoping that it'll get me somewhere else, away from the people that can break you into a million pieces and blow away the little flame that's shining brightly deep inside of you. So be strong to fight the waves. Why are you hiding behind in the shadows of the world, where no one can find and bring you out? Why don't you let your light shine? Why don't you let your light shine? Why don't you believe in yourself? Ooh, too scared to be who I am, to face the world, to face myself. It's easier to give it all up, just follow what everyone's doing. It's hard to be somebody different. Too scared, I'm scared. Why are you hiding behind the shadows of the world, where no one can find and bring you out? Why don't you let your light shine? Why don't you let your light shine? Why don't you believe in yourself? Ooh. My name is Merita, and this is My Brave. I'd like to welcome our next cast member to the stage, Shawna.
The title of my piece is 20 Plus Years of Chaos. I have seen the disease of addiction take many lives. They just could not break away from that overwhelming need for the drink or the drug. I've also seen people who miraculously broke free from the obsession and are living productive lives. This story is about addiction from my experience. Growing up, I was exposed to things that young girls should not be. I ran around the neighborhood barefoot in the summertime, smoked cigarettes, got into trouble. I played marbles with my girlfriends and had sex with older boys. Looking back now, the availability of drugs and alcohol is alarming. At the time, I had no idea that I was setting the stage for 20 plus years of chaos. I thought I was doing what young people do. I was having fun. I had good intentions and I saw a bright future for myself. But at the same time, I felt awkward and alone throughout most of my childhood. I felt I did not fit in, like that square peg trying to fit into a round hole. Community college was the plan for me after high school, but that plan was soon abandoned for life as a regular person. Drinking and partying was just too much fun. I began in the restaurant business at the age of 14, and anyone who's been in that industry knows what goes on after closing. In my 20s and 30s, I was behind the bar. I began to drink before work, during work if I could get away with it, and of course after work. In the year 2000, while bartending, I met the man that I would eventually marry. He was a heavy drinker just like me, and he laughed at my jokes. He was also a heavy gambler. And before we were married, committed white-collar crimes. In my mind, I couldn't do any better. One night we were leaving a club in southern Maine and accepted a ride from a man who my then fiance had been talking horse racing with. This man seemed okay, but then on the ride back to the hotel, his personality changed. He turned angry. He told us that he had put women in the pond that we were speeding past and that he would put me there too. We didn't know if he had a gun. We didn't know what he would do. Suddenly, this man drove over a curb and was on the lawn of a restaurant. The car had slowed enough that my fiance could open the door and jump out, but there was one problem. I was still in the back seat. And this man stepped on the gas and took off with me. It seemed like forever, but it was probably only 2 to 3 minutes when the police were behind us. The man pulled over, and the police came and got me out of the car. I ran to my fiance, who was there with the police, but I never knew what happened to this man because we were living in Connecticut at the time. And my fiance was able to talk me out of going ahead with any case or charges. It would just be too much of a hassle. In 2004, I and my now husband moved to Southwest Florida where everything would be better, but it wasn't. In the years after leaving my husband, I was a 24/7 drinker, and I was unemployable. I went to 2 rehabs, both for only 5 days, and I said I was 100% sure that vodka, which I called vitamin V, was going to kill me. Absolute defiance took hold. I would say, I'm an alcoholic, I know what I am, so what? Deep down, I was in pain. I didn't want to live, but part of me didn't want to die either. I had several failed relationships because, let's face it, I had a broken picker when it came to men. I had car accidents, DUIs, losing 6 jobs in 6 years wasn't enough to stop me. Being Baker acted in 2007 wasn't enough. On the last day of the 72-hour hold, the mental health techs at the facility I was at told me that the psychiatrist who would have my fate in her hands doesn't let anyone out on the first interview. My alcoholic thinking took that as a challenge. I told the psychiatrist that I was simply having a bad few days and that I hadn't intended to kill myself. I'd been to college, I was well-versed, I even studied psychology. She let me out. A friend picked me up, and as soon as I got to my apartment complex, I got in my car and went and got a bottle of vodka. In 2011, I was in another toxic relationship where mental, emotional, and some physical abuses were on the menu. Eventually, I crawled back home to my parents in Maine, weighing 106 pounds. I got a job in a restaurant, put on some weight, but I'm still drinking. In October of 2011, I got my second DUI, and 2.5 weeks later, my third. I woke up the next morning in a holding cell, having very little memory of what happened. My family let me stay in jail for 6 days, but it was on the second day I told myself I'd done just about everything one could possibly do with adventures in alcoholism, except kill myself, but more importantly, someone else. I decided I was done. I moved back to Florida in 2015, this time to Pinellas County, and at the age of 45, I started my college career all over again at SPC, St. Petersburg College. After SPC in 2020, I wanted to continue my undergraduate degree at the University of South Florida. Ow! In fact, it was the only school I applied to. I was accepted, I cried, and then did most of my degree at home because of the pandemic. This year I began my master's degree here at USF, and I could not be prouder to be attending this fine institution. My family stuck by me through all of it, and they might just be prouder than me. Well, the pandemic did bring so much fear and uncertainty for many. 2020 ended up being my year. Not only did I get into the school I wanted to, but I finally met a man who knows my worth. We married in March of 2020, and he continues to be my biggest fan. He treats me as though I am precious, because I am. And my name is Shawna, and this is my brave. It's my pleasure to welcome our next cast member to the stage, Jaden.
This thing is going to be high enough so that I can read it, but low enough so that you can still see my young lean shirt. All right. Hello, my name is Jaden, and I'll be talking about my struggles with manic episodes and bipolar disorder. So, in January of 2021, I was dealing with a bad depressive episode that culminated in a suicide attempt and subsequently me getting Baker-acted. To combat this, my psychiatrist prescribed me with antidepressants, which led to my first manic episode. For the first time in months, I felt happy, but too happy. I was extremely hyper and full of myself. Nothing in the world could make me upset, not even draining my bank account. I was barely sleeping, staying up all night playing my favorite game, Super Mario 64. I remember one night I was freaking out about the color of the grass in the game. It was my favorite shade of green, and I thought the game was speaking to me somehow. After waking up from another night of needless shopping, I began to realize I was displaying the symptoms of mania. I told my parents and psychiatrists what was going on, and they began to slowly wean me off the medication. But I was still manic for the next couple of days, where I made a very bad decision. You see, I was part of a literary magazine club at my high school. This club put together magazines with poetry and short stories, as well as open mics and poetry cafes. It was a social circle that I needed and loved, as I didn't have many friends in high school before them. However, my manic self was convinced that this group was toxic and the cause of all my problems, which wasn't true. I asked the teacher if I could leave the class and make it a study hall, which he agreed to. I had essentially just cut off all of my friends in my last year of high school. A few weeks later, when I was in a more stable state, I tried reaching out to some of my classmates, but they were unsurprisingly reluctant to forgive me and let me back in. I said hurtful things about them and the publication as a whole, and despite many of those said people attending USF right now, I don't talk to them. They've become strangers. The rest of my time in high school was spent lonely and lost, but I was hopeful that things would change, that things would be different once I got to college, but they weren't. As a commuter, I struggled to make friends and have fun at school, and my depression only worsened. I was struggling to make it to classes on time, spent most of my time in the library with my head down, and was losing motivation for college. By July of 2022, while taking summer classes, I had enough of this lifestyle. I wanted to try antidepressants again. This, however, only led to another manic episode. Once again, I went on an unnecessary shopping spree, but this time, as an adult with actual money, I got really carried away, buying lots of expensive music and clothes. While I appreciate finally having some drip, it was, of course, foolish and not worth it. And once again, I couldn't sleep and was extremely hyper and elated. Except this time, I was taking Calculus 3, and it was the week of the final. I ended up bombing the final exam and got a B in the class when I was so close to an A. I eventually became aware of what the antidepressants were doing to me and stopped taking them. However, shortly after this, the fall semester started, and I had another manic episode during the first week of school going into the second, this time while on no medication. During this episode, something pushed me over the edge. I received a poor grade on a math assignment and almost tripped over the teacher with my foot while he handed it to me. This made me feel horrible, and it messed with my self-esteem. I began to have dark thoughts again that I wasn't good enough for college and didn't feel like I had many friends to go to for comfort, and I found myself at the end of a ledge, not sure what to do. However, the thought of my family and how much they would miss me if I was gone held me back, and I went to my car to call the suicide hotline for help. They sent a herd of cops after me, which I feel was unnecessary, but they did the right thing in Baker acting me, they did the right thing in Baker acting me. This time, I was sent to an adult facility, and it was there where I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and everything began to make sense. People with BPD tend to react to antidepressants by having a manic episode, which is why 2 different medications led to that. This also explained my months-long episodes of depression. I was then prescribed a mood stabilizer, and I've been doing much better the past couple of months. I found more friends at school, sold many of the useless things I purchased, and my mood has been much more stable. I've been almost entirely mania-free since August of last year. Thank you. The thing to take away from my story is that 1, manic episodes are just the worst, and 2, there's always an answer or explanation to your problems. Once you have the right diagnosis, you can find the best suitable treatment. I'm happy that I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, not because I'm happy to have it, but I'm happy to know what my issue is so that I can address it. The necessary help is out there if you seek it. Thank you. My name is Jaden, and this is my Brave. I'd like to welcome our next cast member to the stage, Kaylee.
I've been a dancer my whole life. What that has meant for me is striving for an impossible perfection. There I go. Striving to make my body do things that it doesn't naturally do, and feeling not good enough when I'm not able to. Striving to live up to my own harsh expectations, and striving to live up to my perceived expectations of others. To give some context, after high school graduation, I went to college for 3 years to study dance. I took 3 years off to discover a new love for dance, and in 2021, I returned to USF to complete my Bachelor's of Fine Arts in dance. After not training for 3 years, I felt very behind, and my inner critic became louder and louder and louder. Not to mention, USF's dance program is ranked the best in Florida, meaning I'm surrounded by a lot of really, really talented people. It's easy to get caught in comparison when you spend every day looking at yourself and your peers in a mirror. I was constantly criticizing myself and never feeling good enough. When it came to choreography creation, I felt blocked, unable to create anything without harsh self-judgment. In November 2021, which is just 3 months after I started school, I experienced my first really scary and painful menstrual cycle. It wasn't just regular menstrual cramps. My entire abdomen was hurting, and I felt like I couldn't walk or eat because I was in so much pain. I knew something was wrong, but as someone who believes that the imbalances in our body have a direct correlation with our mental state, I found another reason to criticize myself. I began blaming and shaming myself for this imbalance that I had created in my body. I mean, our womb space is the place of creation and creativity, the sacral chakra. We birth children, ideas from this space. And what was I struggling with? Expressing myself creatively through dance and struggling with the birth of choreography. Additionally, this was the most stressed out I had been in a very long time. I was constantly overcommitting myself. My body was under a lot of stress, and I didn't have the time to nourish my body or mental state with my busy school and rehearsal schedule. So I went to see my gynecologist. I got an ultrasound done, and I had a very large cyst on my right ovary and a smaller one on my left. My gynecologist grew concerned when they hadn't gone away on their own after a couple months had passed by, and she feared the possibility of cancer. She ordered me cancer antigen blood work and demanded I go see a cancer specialist when the blood work was off the charts by thousands. This terrified me. I seriously thought that I was going to die. And if I wasn't going to die, I was inevitably going to have a really hard, painful, scary road ahead of me. This was one of the lowest times of my life. I was stressed out and afraid. I was having nightmares, literally waking up from screaming in my sleep. I was so afraid of what my diagnosis would be and what procedure I would have to have. I was in pain daily, not just when I was bleeding, but every single day. And when my bleed would come around, I would be bedridden and unable to move for days. I was an unreliable employee, a terrible student, and a shitty friend. I finally mustered up the courage to go see a cancer specialist. Based on my imaging, she said there is nothing that suggested I had cancer, and the elevated cancer antigens in my blood work is normal for those with other pelvic inflammatory disorders. She said it was likely that I have a severe case of endometriosis, which is an inflammatory disorder where the tissue similar to the tissue that normally lines the inside of your uterus grows outside of your uterus. So it can grow on your ovaries, your fallopian tubes, your intestines, and other organs. The only way to diagnose this and know for sure is with surgery. I didn't want to get surgery. I believe that we have more power over our health and well-being than we've been conditioned to believe, so I've been putting all of my intentions into healing holistically, meaning not just physical healing, but spiritual, mental, and emotional too. I'm proud to say that I've been able to successfully manage my symptoms through my dedication to self-love, through diet, herbs, stress management, menstrual health education, inner child healing, and a lot of positive self-talk and affirmations. This dance I am sharing today was created as yet another avenue for my healing. Before I share this dance, I want to say a huge thank you to God for this path that they have put me on, my significant other, my friends, my family, my herbalist, my therapist, and all of the people who have walked this path before me. I really couldn't have survived this without all of you. I want to say thank you to all of you here today for witnessing me, and I want to say thank you to myself for my dedication to healing, my patience, my faith, and my perfection, just as I am. My name is Kaylee, and this is my brave. I'd like to welcome our next cast member to the stage, Ella.
Hello, my name is Ella, and today I will be reading a poem regarding the anxiety associated with collegiate athletics. So some background, I run track here at USF, and I couldn't believe how well all my teammates hid their mental health struggles. I always found it hard to be the only one trying to talk about mine, so to cope, I wore a mask too. I had a teammate tell me that I was the most mentally tough person she's ever met, and I was shocked since I felt like I had been the only one who was struggling. This made me realize that I need to stop hiding that part of me, and I want to preface that my poem focuses on the negative emotions I felt, but I want you to know it isn't one-sided. Today I found more peace and enjoyment in my athletics, being able to talk more openly. Hopefully you can relate to my story, whether you're in athletics or not. So the title of my piece is, Haven't I Given Enough? Anxiety, the persistent and intense feeling of worry and fear. These heavy feelings are fucking up my life. Could I make it any more clear? Look at my past and you'll see the difficulties were extreme. It's all worth it, right? I'm a D1 athlete who's living the dream. I'm smiling even if it's not how I'm truly feeling. Let me explain, since my life looks so goddamn appealing. It's hard to sleep because of the sound of the alarm. It sounds stupid, but it took me a while to realize the harm. That it's not that I'm fearing my sleep will become disrupted. It's that I'm actually just scared of waking up. I don't want to die, but surely I'm scared to be alive. To temporarily remove my anxiety, I run. Ironic that anxiety is also the sole thing that makes me want my track career to be done. Being able to run myself until physical failure is where I find peace in my disciplined behavior. I feel a lot of pressure being a collegiate athlete at the moment because the Olympics is no longer sounding like a component of my future plan. Yeah, I've had coaches tell me I'm nascent. You'll make it there even if you're not the best. Just don't be complacent. But when I get up early for practice every day, I wonder if I'm improving or in a slow decay. Through this all, I still look at my life. I see an average girl whose talent is rife. People tell me I'm not the only one who is struggling. Then why was I crying at practice while others were hustling? I say to myself, this is what I've always wanted. It's a sin to think I sometimes wish I never started. I hate myself so much for ever enjoying the entice. That failure seems kind of nice. No, but it all has to have been worth it, all the damage I've done to my body in order to be fit. Because then it was good damage, it wasn't a waste. Otherwise, it's just damage happiness could have replaced. My hands are shaking and my mind is racing, all in attempts for the dream I'm chasing. I'm holding on to the hope that it'll all be worth it in the end, and it's tough. I've given everything in me and I still haven't given enough. But what the fuck is even enough? I've been told to be content with where I'm at while continuing to strive for more. It feels like I'm walking down an up escalator while I'll never reach the floor. There are times where I question if any of it is worth it. But then I've had strangers approach me and tell me I'm the reason they have grit. How they started running to be successful like me, but that only happened ever so rarely. The other 99% of my life, I'm left craving athletic validation. I've only been taught that the feeling of not being enough is just motivation. I valued myself based off my performance. My attempts to find worth was the most important. So in high school, I did whatever it took. I trained with the best coach in New York. I didn't take a second look. He was manipulative and assaulting. He didn't seem to care. To him, I was just hardware. Regardless, I knew in order to be the best, I couldn't get him fired. He could make me successful like I desired. To be top in the state and even the nation, I did eventually achieve that standard in what felt like isolation. At that point, I thought then I'd finally be enough. I assumed his actions would only have left a small scuff. I was wrong because here I am talking to you about my mental health. I'm left with anxiety. I'm left being scared in stealth. I find it easy for me to fall asleep with the ground. It silences the world so I'm no longer drowned. From watching my sister, who's become a victim to injury and ACL tear. She was doing the one thing that's more important to me than air. She was running track and exemplifying hard work and drive. Now she can't do the one thing that is keeping me alive. I feel guilty watching her attempt to recover, which isn't guaranteed, while I'm continuing for my dream knowing the same thing can happen to me. My love and passion for this sport has inevitably left me with a world that is distort. It has left me with anxiety, guilt, trauma, and pain. It's all things I'd undoubtedly experience again. If I could go back, I wouldn't reverse the damage. I'd wear it on my sleeve. Instead, I'd learn to manage. I'd talk about what almost made me lose the love I had for running. Instead of hiding and thinking I was being cunning, I had become so comfortable with being uncomfortable. It felt like I was never in my comfort zone. My life was insufferable. I forget how bad my anxiety is until I get the surge of it. I fiend through this nauseating pain that doesn't quit. The fork I used to feed myself won't stop shaking in my hand. It's a struggle to watch the physical effects I can no longer withstand. At first I tried begging for help from above. I was desperately kneeling. Now I crave the torment of punching hard concrete walls and jumping from the ceiling. I want to give myself pain, but without self-harm. I just want it to go away without scarring it on my arm. I want to stand as close to the edge without going over. That is what I live for. It's the fix to my closure. I struggle to find the time and place to talk about all this because when I sit and think, I can't resist the thought of someone somewhere who's stuck in a hospital bed, people out there who have it worse and wish for everything I have instead, being able to run, breathe, and be healthy like me while I'm here complaining about insignificant ideas that I can foresee. So that's why I hide and keep my mouth shut. I don't want to bleed on people who aren't the reason I'm cut. I'm overanalyzing to fight the stigmatizing because people are minimizing, it's dehumanizing, and I can't do it anymore, I can't do it. My name is Ella, and this is my Brave. I would like to introduce the next cast member, Emma.
For context, when I was in therapy, I was given homework assignments. A lot of times this consisted of writing letters that I would never send to those who had deeply hurt and affected me. This exercise allowed me to vent out my deepest grievances to people who had not listened to me anytime I tried to communicate my questions, confusion, anger, and pain. My therapist knew I enjoyed writing and that it was my preferred method to process my emotions, so she encouraged me to write whenever I felt compelled to, even if it was unrelated to the homework or the prompt she had given me in the previous weeks. With each passing week that I read these letters to my therapist, it became more and more validating and cathartic until it didn't anymore. One day, during some downtime at work, I was sitting at a table in ISA right here on campus, feeling extremely overwhelmed and drowning in my emotions. I'd been feeling like I wasn't enough, I was hard to love, and that I was broken because of the challenges I had endured. I grew up in an extremely dysfunctional and unhealthy household. This decaying family contained manipulation, drunken fights, conditional love, verbal abuse, intense psychological warfare, an abusive marriage, and screaming matches each and every week. I didn't know how to reconcile this pain through a letter. It didn't feel like enough. I'd been struggling to articulate the years of torment I went through and how desperately I longed to feel as though I was enough, and that I was not a broken piece that had been overused in someone's never-ending cheating game of chess. So that day, in ISA, I pulled out my laptop and I wrote my piece, Porcelain. Brought into this world as crafted, fragile porcelain, I was gifted to a nurturing woman and given to an indecipherable man. I stood high on my shelf, but not alone, because next to me was a beautiful statue that resembled mine. Instant joy overcame my ceramics as my caretakers instructed me to call her sister. Two finely engraved bodies held each other hand in hand as they would take on the world. I learned to follow sister's every command, which was made easy due to how assertive and endlessly mesmerizing she was. As the days went on and the years went by, the ones whose hand I used to hold had lost their dazzling shine. Their assertiveness was demanding, and I feared their disappointment. In failure, my exterior had received several scratches. I learned to not simply take the scars, but to give them back too. Our sisterhood rocked the shelves with its highs and lows that contained a toxicity that would tarnish our fragility. With each musty green-gray glint, the woman and the man would rush to either's aid and polish vigorously to try and shine the pain away. The woman always seemed to be right behind us with the polish or the glue, but I could not say the same for the man. Eventually, he would be the creator for some of the scratches and chips to my design. The man would start to hide the supplies and would only utilize them if my repairs would convenience him. While only ceramic, I was not oblivious to the pattern. If I wanted to be rebuilt, I would go to the woman. The man continued to be indecipherable to me, but he was still captivating nonetheless. Amongst many other skills, he taught me to not allow my delicateness to halt the growth of stubbornness. He had a way of strategically arranging the trinkets on the sill and then convincing you that nothing was altered. However, I learned to stand my ground and vocalize what I knew to be true. I figured this strength would make the man proud because it was proof of how much I flourished in his lessons of stubbornness. But instead, he grew angry as I matched his obstinance. I was confused and hurt and continued to confide in the woman. She tended to my needs, but soon I saw that while her heart broke for me, she was mourning the actions of another, the actions of the man. She loved the man and seemed to find his behavior confusing and alarming. As I collected dust, I grew to understand the woman's perspective. This toggled my delicate mind as I knew running to her made the man angry, and it hurt her heart. She seemed so strong and brave, but maybe her heart was made of porcelain too, beautiful yet so fragilely prone to breaking. For the next several years, I would continue to hide my scars and chips and only let out little whispers of my pain. I decided I no longer needed the polish or the glue. I didn't deserve it. The sistering stature soon left, and I was alone with the man and the woman in the dark cloud that haunted us. The shelf was dustier than it was before, but it was still reminiscent of a sanctuary. I spent my days there partly alone and taught myself to hide behind the other knickknacks to maintain obscurity. The caretakers persisted but constantly lost their way in each other. Their love was not shaken, it was decomposing. Their despair transferred to the shelf where I was suffocated by dust and balancing on the wood that rotted beneath my once sparkling feet. The man was tired of me and came stumbling towards my case. There he grabbed me out and lifted me up so high where I got to finally see into his blue eyes. They looked poisoned and deserted, which terrified me, but I found solace in imagining them as one giant glistening ocean. My fantasies only got me so far because before I knew it, he was letting me go. My shiny structure shattered and was destroyed into a million pieces. The hopes for repair are daunting, and so I remained stagnant as I decorated the floor with my remnants. The man towers over my brokenness and begins to sweep me under the rug. I cannot breathe, and I cannot move. I went before I thought my pain might restore his humanity. I squint my eyes open, and he is nowhere to be found. I close my eyes once more to only hear footsteps running towards me. I tense in fear, but look up to see the woman covered in tears. She brings with her mountains of polish and glue and proceeds to wail as she relentlessly tries to put me back together. She whispers that the man is gone and that I am safe. Today, while still glued together, I possess many lines of scars that coat my once perfect structure. The trauma of feeling broken looms over me, for no amount of glue or polish will restore me back to my once perfect state. I must allow for the passage of time and hope that one day I will learn to truly love my fragilely scarred porcelain the way that the woman who saved me does. And to the woman who I know so much better as my mom, I want to say thank you for being here tonight, supporting me endlessly, loving me, being a wonderful parent, and being the parent that I deserved, and ultimately my best friend. Without you, I wouldn't be standing here tonight, and thank you for saving me. My name is Emma, and this is my brave. I would now like to introduce our next cast member, Enrique.
Hello. My name is Enrique, and I'm going to talk about PTSD. PTSD stands for post-traumatic stress disorder, and it happens when the stress reactions that are normal for all of us to experience after a traumatic event don't dissipate, they don't subside, and they interfere with daily living. Examples of traumatic events that can cause PTSD are assault, school shootings, and combat. 23 years ago, I joined the military. I willingly signed up. It wasn't a thing of, go to the Army or go to jail. I willingly signed up. And so one could argue, as opposed to someone who dealt with the school shooting, I kind of sort of chose PTSD. I mean, someone might say, like, dude, you're joining the Army. Like, it's a no-brainer. What did you expect? But then let's consider how we learn about combat or learn about war. I don't know about y'all, but I learned about war from G.I. Joe, Predator movies, and like the World War II books that my dad had laying around. PTSD starts after the author finishes his dissertation of the Battle of Midway. PTSD starts when the movie's done, the credits roll, and the audience has gone home. Like the first time I ever saw PTSD on a movie screen was actually part of the comic relief. 20 years ago this month, I left for Iraq. And when I signed up and when I left, no one was talking about PTSD. So if nobody's talking about it, then how the hell am I supposed to know about it? And so here I am. Here we are. We're here tonight because we didn't feel enough people were talking about it. And what we did hear, the stigmas that surround it, we didn't like. So we all agreed to take one for the team. We've agreed to jump on whatever grenade society throws at us for being up here and sharing. As for me, if what I share tonight helps somebody else out there, I'll take whatever negative consequences come my way as a fair trade. I would like to do a poem. I don't know about y'all, but sometimes you hear a song, you sometimes change the lyrics to make it fit. I'm a fan of Leonard Cohen. I'm a fan of the song Hallelujah. And so I decided to rewrite the lyrics. No, I'm not going to sing it. You know, put the earplugs away. This My Hallelujah, the original lyrics were written by Mr. Leonard Cohen. I received the order to march, and on the plane we were all aboard. But you don't care for stories of war, do you? Well, it went like this: death, blood, and IEDs. Always thinking the next one would get me. When I came home, I dropped to my knees and I prayed, hallelujah. I lost myself in the sand beneath my boots. I was always one of the first to see the gunfire from the roof. Yeah, the violence of my memories overthrow you. Well, I had the enemy in my crosshairs, and I pulled my trigger and I stared. And as the body fell, I uttered, hallelujah. Now, baby, I've been here before. PTSD kicking love out the door. I thought I was meant to be alone before I knew you. And though your love came like a solid marble arch, mine came like a destroyed and wrecked car. It was a cold and an absurd hallelujah. Now, baby, there was a time when you would let me know what's really going on below. But now, you'll never show me that again, will you? But I remember when things were good, and I could see the good in me too. Baby, I'm so sorry. Hallelujah. Now, maybe God's knocking on my door, but all I ever learned from war was to kill them before they kill you. Now, broken and alone in the night, and I see that I lost my way. Maybe there's still time that I can be saved. Lord, anyone, please help me. Hallelujah. Thank you. This is my brave. My name's Enrique, and I would love to bring Seth to the stage.
Good evening. Thank you all for being here tonight, and thank you to the cast for your bravery in expressing yourselves. It's people like you that keep humanity alive. There was once a time when I would ask the question, why me? Why did I go through that experience? Why do I feel so lost? And so one day, I felt so numb that I couldn't feel anything. Eventually, another question began to go through my mind. Why am I alive? I began to realize that even though I had gone through turbulent times, I'm still standing and able to make a difference not only in my life, but in the lives of others. This is for all of you who battle daily with mental health, but never lose hope for a brighter tomorrow. This is the stars shine for us. Suffering. From the day we are born until our very last breath, we experience it. We live our days as though it were a figment of our imagination. We pride ourselves on our ability to conceal it, as though it can never reach our heights, as though we have wings for feet and the ground is not worthy to grace our souls. We hide from suffering, hoping it'll find someone else, yet it still finds us with our eyes closed, blind to its true intention. It's the moment we realize that there is no way to avoid it that we begin to open our eyes and see things for what they truly are. The unfortunate truth about life is that we will always be guaranteed to suffer, no matter who we are on the outside or on the inside. What we own or what we've achieved, each one of us will forever have this in common. However, another truth of life is that we are equipped with the power of transforming our pain and suffering into something known as love. Love for those who are different from us, for this planet and everything it provides for us, and maybe the most challenging, love for ourselves. This love I speak of is not artificial or temporary. Like the roots of a tree, it envelops us and embraces us regardless of our identity. It lights our way in times of darkness and provides direction in times of blindness. This love only exists during the moments that matter most, the moments when we are selfless enough to help others who are in pain, who have lost direction, whose light has been dimmed. To be human means that we are all subject to failure, not once or twice, but countless times. And at some point, our hearts will sink into the abyss of hopelessness. There will be times when we will look in the mirror and not recognize our reflection as the influence of this world grips our minds and makes us question the reason for our existence. No, suffering is not easy, but to be broken only means that we have the opportunity to build a version of ourselves that this world did not influence, the unbreakable spirits we were destined to be. Our struggles might seem to be against us, but when faced with courage, they become living proof that we have the strength required to rise above them. And it is the moment when we release who we should be, that those obstacles causing us to fall lift us up to show us exactly who we are. This will soon be just a moment in time, but always try to remember this. Each day brings with it an opportunity to redefine who you are, and each breath you breathe is encouragement from creation to tell the world that your light cannot be dimmed. Instead, you will continue to burn bright as the stars in the night sky do. You will light the way for those who suffer in silence and whose pain consumes them. Because we are all worthy. We are all enough. We are all human. And no matter how insignificant you might feel, this world would not be complete without you. The entire universe and beyond was made for you, and your story is vital to its existence. Like constellations, we are all connected, and when we realize that we are stronger together, our inherent power will be revealed to us. This power does not intimidate or oppress. Instead, it casts a light brighter than the sun. It fills all of the shadows in our hearts and minds and replenishes the souls of those around us. It relinquishes all of our self-doubts and provides us with the strength we need to fulfill our life's purpose. No matter the magnitude of our struggles or the intensity of our suffering, the stars will continue to shine for us from millions of miles away, and from their light, may we be reminded to never lose sight of the true meaning of life and never lose hope for ourselves and for humanity. I would like to end this with a quote from the late Maya Angelou. You may not control all the events that happen to you, but you can decide not to be reduced by them. My name is Joseph Rivera, and this is my brave. I would like to bring back to the stage Dr. Kristin Kosyluk.
Let's hear it one more time for our brave cast. I would now like to welcome to the stage the Dean of the College of Behavioral and Community Sciences, Dean Sorovich.
So somehow I'm supposed to close this thing up. So let me ask, would the cast please stand over here, make a line right over here for me? Because I want to talk to you, but I also don't want to turn my back to the audience. Please, just form a line here so I can talk to you without turning my back. Terrific. So that was amazing. That was amazing. There is no question in this room that you are brave, but you are more than that. You are incredibly talented, and the talent shown so clearly tonight. And tonight, you're probably also a hero. And you're a hero because there are people out in this audience who are struggling just like you did and are. And you've given them a pathway out. You've told them tonight that there's a better way. And so for that, on behalf of them, I thank you. But I think the most important thing that you did tonight is that you owned your story. And when you own your story, you have power over that story. It's yours. You own it. Nobody can take it. No one can retell it. It's yours. And because of that, you can sharpen it, you can dull it, you can change it, you can truncate it. And in fact, if you want, you can wrap it all up and you can drop it. That is totally up to you. You can drop up pieces of it, you can take the shame and drop it over and over and over again because it's yours. Ladies and gentlemen, the cast, the brave, powerful cast of This Is My Brave. Please come on up. Get up front there. Get right up front.
Had to hold it together a couple of times just because a lot of the stories were very relatable. It was definitely nice to engage with that, hear other people's stories, reflect on just myself, my own issues. It felt nice to not be alone. It was something parallel to my own life as well. Very therapeutic in its own way.
It was so powerful, transformative. It was absolutely amazing. One of the things that really resonated with me was the realness, the rawness, the theme of tenacity, the theme of resilience, and the visual. So many different people that on the surface just looked like they were ordinary, happy, regular old people. Underneath that iceberg, dealing with a lot of different types of issues, adversities, and trauma, and it really was a humanizing experience. Artistically, it was a gift. It was a breath of fresh air. It was just high quality talent and really, really deeply, profoundly moving.
Stories that were told are ones that I've heard amongst my own social groups in passing and whispered conversations. And I think the strength that it took to stand up on stage and express that to an audience, I know how much strength that takes. You just have to reach within yourself to have that strength just to talk about these things because they do need to be talked about. And it always helps to hear you're not alone in that type of thinking. I just really admire the fact that they were able to get up on stage and talk about those things. I think that anybody who is wanting to talk about these things should, because when you're able to voice your feelings and voice what you're going through, you are able to acknowledge it and actually work through it.
It's definitely electrifying, and when that really empowers the you within, what I saw in each of the cast members tonight was that time and time again, they chose themselves in different ways, and redemption was a theme that took place throughout. That it doesn't matter how you start, but along the way, your journey is what really tells your story.